Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Today's video is going to be my take on everyone's arch enemy, the amp gauge, ammeter. I call it an amp gauge because it was what it was before I knew it was an ammeter. But anyway, everybody generally hates these. I don't care. They do a fine job. All my running trucks have functioning ammeters in them. They all work. They all tell me whether it's charging or discharging, just like they're supposed to. If they're charging or discharging too much, they tell me something's wrong and I fix it. I don't have any melted gauge pots in any of my trucks that have plastic gauge pots. Most don't anymore. There's another solution, preventative step maybe we should call it, to the melting these, but I can tell you what's melting these 90% of the time. Anyway, I was at the wrecker today, well, my backyard, and I bought an old truck and I pulled the dash apart in it, as I do with most of my trucks. I go through and get parts. And so today I was pulling stuff apart and I found this baby. This is the only one I have that should go in the scrap pile, but I thought I would keep it for our fine new video series. So anyway, they get hot, they melt the plastic dash, they can catch fire, I guess. I don't know what you'd have to do to start a fire. Maybe some 80s KC daylighters, a row of 10 of them across the roof, and some big H4 halogen headlights and no relays and a bunch of stuff that's not factory, big stereo systems and all that crap, and then run it all through the gauge. I guess eventually you would create some problems drawing off the positive post of the battery. I can't tell you how many accessories I've seen guys put the main power wire off the positive post of the battery. See that? It just drives me crazy. Because then all the power, when you drain your battery down, has to run through this gauge. And I mean, I'm not saying that you could hook a welder to either side and go crazy with it, but you could run everything stock pretty well. And I mean, there's all the stories. I mean, I guess probably a few have gone bad, but right here in my hand is why most of them go bad that I've seen. Now, I'm not talking everybody's gonna, oh, I had one and it just burst into flames and I looked at it sideways. But anyway, I went to pull this one out and we'll get a little closer here. As you can see here, this post is healthy. It's soldered into the back. I want to say it's soldered. Now, I've heard they're pressed. So I'm going to just take this apart right here because it's broken anyway. This piece here is not a shunt. It's just a piece of plastic. It holds everything. Steady, I don't know what you want to call it. It's kind of a brace. Well, this one here is broke. This post is good. It's solid into the brass. You can run power in here and out this, well, not this side because this one's broke, but out the other side, there's a big brass plate in here. Well, not plate, but brace. I don't know what you call it. It's the main structure of the gauge. And everything is sturdy and solid. So this is how they're supposed to be. Now this one is collapsed and it's broke loose. So what I do is just a quick, every one when I have a dash apart, just by force of habit, I solder these. Take it apart, a couple of rivets right here that you can't see, so you drill them out, you take it apart, mark everything so you get it back the same way, because it's powered by a magnet. Inside here, in the back here, there's a magnet, and it, when power runs through it, it makes this little piece of metal right here with the gauge mounted on it swing back and forth as the power changes direction. So that's how your gauge works. There's no moving pieces. There's just power in through this brass and out the other side. So anyway, when I went to get this out, somebody had put both the wires on the same stud, which is the bypass. Anyway, the reason, I mean, I don't know the reason they did it, but I know the reason they had to do it in this one. It's because when they got on here, they broke this stud loose from that brass plate. I don't know if you can see it, but I mean, I guess you can. But it jiggles around. I don't think it to focus. But anyway, so this got broke loose. This is the most common failure in these. So really, if this wasn't all bent and demolished, a guy could put that back in there, solder it, and it'd be a good gauge again. I mean, it probably wouldn't, because the piece here is, it needs to be rebuilt. But anyway, this one's scrap. So somebody broke this loose. Now, they have the unfortunate feature of the studs, the power studs, being the mounting system. So when you go to put the gauge in the dash, you tighten this first bolt down, and then you put your wire on, and then you tighten the second bolt down. So then, what I believe most people do is they can't reach up in there because it is very inconvenient to get. The wires are not very long. You got to have the dash almost in place. It's hard to reach back there. If you have a clock on that side or a volt back gauge, it's almost impossible to reach without being a yoga expert. But anyway, they tighten them in, and then they tighten this up against it, and then when they go to snug it up, they don't hold this one. You have to hold this one to lock this one onto it. Because whether this bolt is tight in the dash, it can be just finger tight and it's fine. But if you put this on here and then crank on it with a wrench, because this can't move, you just snap it loose. Loose fitting, resistance, heat, you start melting stuff. So I have this right here. This is what I was actually after in this truck. This prevents the melting stuff in the first place. This is 1975. I hate to give this away. Lots of guys don't know it. 1975 is the 75 to 80 dash pot, gauge pot, we're going to call this. It's metal, not plastic. So there ain't nothing to melt. So if you do happen to be inexperienced and tighten the shit out of this, you can't melt anything. But if you have a plastic one, you spin these off, you pull your gauge, and every time you want to hook up a wire or adjust anything, you just hold the second little bolt. It's not a 3/8. It's a 3/8 fits crappy. But if these are all clean behind the dash, there's never any resistance, right? So you take I have a special little 3/8 wrench. It's fairly thin, so it'll fit in and hold this underneath, and then you can turn that top one. But you gotta hold it, because if you don't, just snap the other one off. Or you could snap the other one off. Sidebar. This is my little wrench that I have for this purpose, and I just noticed it's a 3/8. Is that upside down? 3/8. The box end is 7/16. Weirdest shit I've ever seen. And I've had this wrench for years, and I never noticed that. I don't use this end. So anyway, just strange. I've never seen a combination open box like that. But anyway, so if you hold this end of this, when it's all up in there, it's inconvenient, but you do it. Then you can put just a 6-point deep socket on there, because your terminal comes out the side. And tighten them. So anyway, if you don't, when they get stuck, like this particular one was, or the guy was taking it off or doing whatever, actually managed to collapse the side of the frame here, bend it like 90 degrees the wrong way. It still won't turn. It's actually I call it a carriage bolt, little square hole, square head on the bolt. We call them carriage bolts. But anyway, so they can't spin freely. Now there's several videos that I can't find about a guy that rebuilds these. And he takes this apart, takes the two rivets out. You got to take the magnet out. Anything you do, you have to take it apart, take the magnet out, because heat kills it. You don't want to heat it up. You got to heat it up quite a bit to solder these in properly. But then the other thing that the guy does that I've watched, and I do on some of my fancier builds, I don't think I have any right now because they all have metal dashes in them, but if I have a plastic dash and I want to redo one, my kid's truck, my 80 is going to be like that. You spin the nuts off, you put the gauge in, and you mark where it's going to be, and then you take a piece of brass tubing. I buy it at a hobby store. They sell like all kinds of stuff for building, I don't know, little miniature steam engines or something. And you cut it, splay the ends out, like you put a X in the end of the pipe, like lengthwise, and you spread the ears of the pipe out, and then you slip it on there, and then it sits, little feet sit around the edge here, and you solder that baby on there, and then where it comes through, you make it just a hair thicker than the plastic, and then when you bottom this nut out here, the little secondary nut, it actually hits copper, and that increases the carrying capacity of this little stud, so it runs from your wire through the copper because it conducts better than whatever this little stud's made out of. I thought they were aluminum, but this one here is broke, and I don't think it's aluminum. I don't have a magnet handy, but anyway, that's the bulletproofing video, and so they just take this copper, weld the stud in, solder the stud in, solder that piece of copper on there, and then when you hook your wires up to it on both posts so it works, you have better flow of electricity through it. Some of the heavy duty amp gauges, like my old cop car had, they actually had a shunt that ran across to carry some of the load, because cop cars in the 70s and 80s had lots of high draw stuff, lights, searchlights, driving light, whatever. Anyway, everything was high output radios, all drew lots of power, so they shunted this so that it could pull through. Now if you want to bypass this to one stud, the gauge doesn't work. That would drive me absolutely crazy, and that just couldn't happen for me. You won't want you got 4 gauges. One of them's fuel, so you got 3 that run the motor. You got to be able to keep 3 gauges running, guys. Come on now. So anyway, take your gauge out. If these are solid, she's golden. You can still put a bit of solder on her. You solder them, you got to pull them apart. So you pull these 2 little rivets, gauge, magnet, like I said, mark it all, solder them on there, and then reassemble the gauge. Use new pop rivets. You can't, the heads are all painted black. They're all pretty, but you can't see them on the gauge when the face is on, so it doesn't matter if they're silver. You can put a little black paint on them, whatever. Anyway, just don't torque on them without holding the other end. That's basically as simple as it is, because that's what happens. They break, and this is your resistance right here. This is your heat. The metal pot is an awesome idea, because then you don't have anything to melt if it does go sideways. But if it's going down the road and all of a sudden it goes clunk, it's not always the gauge. Something's wrong. Bypassing it, it'll still be wrong. You just catch fire somewhere else. So don't bypass them. Fix them. And that silly thing that's always on the group that I delete there just drives me nuts, that mad electrical crap. The other problem part, I just happened to have, because it was in the same truck, Mr. Butcher here. Oh, there it is right here. Look at that. This is your firewall plug from the outside. Goes to headlights. This is your main output wire, right? Park lights, headlight. Oh, right here. Sorry, I got a little lost there. So here's your main feed. Comes out of your, this is where the ammeter, when power goes into it and it comes out the back side, it comes through this wire and runs over here. Okay, well, crap like, where's the hell's the camera? Right here. Crap like this. We got bare wire. Somebody just shaved her bare. And then right beside it, there's some other wire that they nicked, shaving this one. So here we got 2 bare wires that are just one bump away from touching. If you can bypass ammeters till you're blue in the face, if you do shit like this, it's a hack. Don't do it. Just fix this. You have this run in the cab. You have the other one's beside it over here, and that's the power going in out of the alternator. And it runs in, and everything runs through 2 spade connectors. Sorry about the ding there. I should turn that off. So you're worried about a connector as big as a 1/4 inch bolt, and all the power runs through that little tiny spade connector anyway. And then they never put the little clips on. So this is just rattling around in the friggin' wind when you're driving down the road. So you, back up a little bit, getting kind of intense here, sorry. So you dielectric grease, plug this in, put the clips in, make sure the wires are good. Go on the inside, make sure everything's clean, nobody's hacked into anything. These things are 40 years old. Everybody and their dog hacked into a wire somewhere to put a bloody stereo in. Anyway. Yeah, so ranting a little, get a little worked up. This post shows up on my group on Facebook all the time. Every time. My taillight doesn't work. Oh, bypass the ammeter. Oh, my circuit lighter, bypass the ammeter. If there's nothing wrong with it, it needs maybe a checkup because it's 40 years old anyway, and you should all get checkups at 40. But anyway, you find crap like this, and then you see guys yelling about ammeter gauges. Well, this is why crap burns down. They wired some big set of driving lights on or something and just started cooking the crap out of everything with draw. And how good of a connection do you get there? There was a wire wrapped around this. It was cut off. I don't know what it went to in that truck. But anyway, yeah. So I'd like to know the draw of all this crap. I never put a meter on any of this. There's a couple guys in our group that are really good electrician guys, like rebuild some gauges, do that kind of work. But if you're restoring, rebuilding to stock, there's not really I mean, if you're going to go to the trouble of restoring or rebuilding a truck and that one thing is going to stop you to bypass, I don't know what to tell you. You're in your own business. But anyway, it's too bad because it's a complete, really nice harness. Somebody's got some kind of a butt connector on green. What's that? Oh, that goes across to the other horn. So that goes to the other horn. So it needs a, boy, if that had a factory connector on it, you'd be in business. This is a nice connect. This is a nice harness. Windshield washer ball. No, the other side of the horn. Sorry. Well, that's a keeper. I just got to figure out how to fix that. Doesn't actually have any broken strands of wire in it. It's just the sheeting. Oh, that sucks. That's why stuff's getting hard to find. They were just trucks in the day, I guess, so guys just chopped away when they needed something. But anyway, yeah, I guess that's probably enough ranting on about the gauge. So gives you a little bit of an idea what's going on with them. Anyway, experienced guys know about this, I guess. I still want to bypass them. If you can drive down the road, the gauges don't work, and you're 3 gauges and one doesn't work, I guess. What the hell? Swapping them out with a volt gauge. I think the factory volt gauge is smaller in diameter. It's like it wouldn't really go in the hole very good. I know guys put other gauges in there. I guess if we could find somebody that, like, the thing to do if you want a volt gauge, I guess, is if we could Brent, I believe it is, that does the gauge work. They resurface. They have decals. So if a guy could get a decal made that looked the same, I'm a little OCD when it comes to the same gauges. I mean, it's a top sleep voltmeter gauge, and you refaced it so it lettering and font and everything matched that. I guess that would be a little less chicken shit looking, but I mean, it works. It's just, it's not necessary. I mean, if you want a volt gauge instead of an amp gauge, go hard. But anyway, that was my take on the bloody amp gauge. That's it. It's raining outside. We're getting closer to spring. A bunch of the snow is melting. It's only above zero. Freezing. +5. It's like pushing 45-ish Fahrenheit. So it's a nice day. Mud's everywhere. Trucks are trying to keep them above water. I got to go to work for a couple days. Hope everybody's not going crazy with the quarantine stuff. That sucks. Everybody's staying healthy, I guess, and working on trucks and all that good stuff. Check your amp meters if you want. That's about it for the day. Everybody have a great week. I don't know what day it is. I kind of lost track. It's Tuesday. Okay. Well, have a great week. And we'll come up with a topic for next week. Subscribe. Everybody does this. There's a button you're supposed to click. I don't know where it is. Subscribe it up for the channel. There's a bell you're supposed to click on. I'm fairly not new to YouTube, but I just follow a few guys. So there's a bell. You can get notifications. There's not very many from me because they're only every other week or so. Facebook, Tin Grill Dodge Trucks, Tin Grill Dodge Trucks Parts. I started a new group about lowered tin grills, dropped tin grills, I think it's called, for all you guys that want them on the ground. Might be doing some work with that because I want to build my 88 that's swapped. I maybe want to lower it. Maybe it's a summer project. Van arms we'll talk about later on. All that good stuff. But anyway, I'm dragging on. So have a great day. See you.